Hello everyone, how are you all? I hope you all are doing well. So I welcome you again to your English class, and today we'll discuss about chapter number 1 of class 7th of Honeycomb book. And this is the most requested video because I was getting the messages continuously to make videos of class 7th chapters. So today we will start with the very first chapter, that is 3 questions, and I'll explain this story in 2 parts. This is the part 1 of the story, and stay tuned for part 2. Actually, this story, 3 questions, is written by Leo Tolstoy. Leo Tolstoy is a famous Russian writer who lived from 1828 to 1910. He is regarded as one of the greatest authors of all time. Actually, he received many nominations for Nobel Prize in Literature, but unfortunately never won once. Out of hundreds of his novels, plays, and stories, War and Peace is an all-time favorite book of millions of people. Actually, this story, 3 questions, is the story of a king who was in search of answers to 3 philosophical questions in life, and he struggled hard to find the answers to the 3 questions. So, what were those 3 questions? Did the king find the answers? And how he found the answers? To find out the answers to all these questions, let's start reading this interesting story. So, look at the paragraph number 1. The thought came to a certain king that he would never fail if he knew 3 things. These 3 things were: what is the right time to begin something? Which people should he listen to? What is the most important thing for him to do? So, here in this paragraph, the word certain means specific, and the word begin means start. So, this paragraph tells us that once there was a king. One day, an idea came into his mind. He thought that he would never fail in his life and as the king of the kingdom if he would know the answers of 3 questions. So, what were those 3 questions? The first question was, what is the right time to begin something? Means the king wanted to know when he should begin to do some work, right? Actually, he wanted to know a particular time or way by which he would be able to do his work on time. The second question was, which people should he listen to? Means the king wanted to know who is the most important person or who should he listen to or pay attention to. The third and the last question was, what is the most important thing for him to do? Means he wanted to know which task or which part of his work is the most important one. Actually, he wanted to know which task should be given more attention than others. Now look at the next 2 paragraphs. The king therefore sent messengers throughout his kingdom, promising a large sum of money to anyone who would answer these 3 questions. Many wise men came to the king, but they all answered his questions differently. Here, the word messenger means a person who carries a message or is employed to carry messages. The word kingdom means a country, state, or territory ruled by a king or queen, and the word wise means intelligent. So, this paragraph tells us that in order to know the answers to his 3 questions, the king sent messengers throughout his territory. Throughout means all over his territory, all over his kingdom. Okay? And even the king promised to give the large amount of money to the person who would answer these 3 questions. And many wise men, many intelligent men came to answer his questions, but all of them answered them differently. Now look at the next paragraph. In reply to the first question, some said the king must prepare a timetable and then follow it strictly. Only in this way, they said, could he do everything at its proper time. Others said that it was impossible to decide in advance the right time for doing something. The king should notice all that was going on, avoid foolish pleasures, and always do whatever seemed necessary at that time. Yet others said that the king needed a council of wise men who would help him act at the proper time. This was because one man would find it impossible to decide correctly without help from others the right time for every action. So here the word strictly means in a way that would bring serious punishment if not obeyed. The word foolish means unwise or pointless. The word pleasures means luxuries or enjoyment. The word seemed means appeared or looked. The word necessary means important, and the word council means a group of people chosen to make rules or to give advice. So, this paragraph tells us that in reply to the first question of the king, some said that the king should prepare a timetable in which each and every task will be covered, and that timetable should be followed strictly. Actually, according to them, only by making a timetable the king would be able to do everything at its correct time. However, others answered that no one could decide the right time to do something in advance. According to them, the king should observe or notice all that was going on in his kingdom and decide accordingly. And besides this, he should avoid unnecessary or pointless pleasures, enjoyment, or satisfaction. In addition to this, some others said that the king needed a group of wise men, a group of intelligent men who could help him to decide the right time for doing something. Now look at the next paragraph. But then others said that there were some things which could be urgent. These things could not wait for the decision of the council. In order to decide the right time for doing something, it is necessary to look into the future, and only magicians could do that. The king, therefore, would have to go to magicians. Here in this paragraph, the word urgent means important. So this paragraph tells us that some people said that there were some things which could be important, which could be urgent, and these things could not wait for the decision of the council. Means it would be very time consuming to wait for the decision of every council member and then decide. Okay. According to them, in order to decide the right time to begin something, the king would have to look into the future. And who could do that? Obviously, the magicians. So only magician could look into the future. So therefore the king would have to go and get help from magicians. Now look at the next paragraph. In their answers to the second question, some said that the people most necessary to the king were his counselors. Others said the priests. A few others chose the doctors, and yet others said that his soldiers were the most necessary. Here the word counselors means members of the council. So this paragraph tells us that in their answers to the second question, some people said that the king should listen to the members of the council. Others said that the king should listen to the priests. Priests means the holy men. A few wise men chose doctors as the people the king should listen to, whereas some others said that the king should listen to his soldiers, who were the most important. Now look at the next paragraph. To the third question, some said science, others chose fighting, and yet others religious worship. So this paragraph tells us that in their answers to the third question, that is what is the most important thing for the king to do, some people said that it was science which was the most important thing for the king to do. Means the king should work for the development of the kingdom, he should work for the invention of new innovative things for the benefit of the kingdom and its people. Others said that fighting for the kingdom and its citizens was the most important thing for the king to do. Whereas some people said that worshipping God was the most important thing for the king to do. Now look at the next paragraph. As the answers to his questions were so different, the king was not satisfied and gave no reward. Instead, he decided to seek the advice of a certain hermit who was widely known for his wisdom. Here in this paragraph, the word satisfied means happy, the word reward means prize money, the word seek means ask for, the word advise means suggestion, the word hermit means a person who lives alone and leads a simple life, and the word wisdom means intelligence. So this paragraph tells us that there were many answers to all the three questions, and they were all different from one another. As all the answers were so different, the king was unable to decide which answer was correct and which was not. And this made him very unhappy. Therefore, he decided to give no prize money to anyone. Instead, he decided to ask for the advice of a hermit who was known for his intelligence. Known means famous or popular. Now look at the next paragraph. The hermit lived in a wood which he never left. he saw no one but simple people, and so the king put on ordinary clothes. Before he reached the hermit's hut, the king left his horse with his bodyguard and went on alone. Here the word wood means a small forest and the word ordinary means simple. So this paragraph tells us that the hermit lived in a small forest and he never left that place. And he used to meet only simple and honest people. So the king also dressed up like an ordinary man and reached the hermit's hut. The king left his horse and bodyguard behind and went on alone to meet that hermit. Now look at the next paragraph. As the king came near the hermit's hut, he saw the hermit digging the ground in front of his hut. He greeted the king and continued digging. The hermit was old and weak, and as he worked, he breathed heavily. Here, the word digging means breaking up and moving soil using a tool, machine, or your hands. And the word greeted means welcomed someone with particular words or a particular action. So this paragraph tells us that when the king reached the hut, he saw the hermit digging the ground in front of his hut. And when the hermit saw the king, he just greeted him. But he did not leave his work. He kept on digging the ground. And during this time, what did the king notice about the hermit? He noticed that the hermit was old and weak. He wasn't healthy enough to do that work. As he worked, he breathed heavily. Breathed heavily means he was tired. Now look at the next paragraph. The king went up to the hermit and said, I have come to you, wise hermit, to ask you to answer 3 questions. How can I learn to do the right thing at the right time? Who are the people I need most? And what affairs are the most important? Here the word affairs means things, matters, or business. So this paragraph tells us that the king went up to the hermit and told him the reason of coming there and asked him the 3 questions. Now look at the next paragraph. The hermit listened to the king but did not speak. He went on digging. You are tired, said the king. Let me take the spade and work in your place. Thanks, said the hermit, giving the king his spade. Then he sat down on the ground. Here the word spade means a tool with a sharp edged, typically rectangular metal blade and a long handle used for digging or cutting earth, sand, etc. As you can see here in the picture, this is a spade, okay? So this paragraph tells us that the hermit listened to the king and his questions, but he did not reply. He kept on digging. The king noticed that the hermit was too old and weak to do that task, so he decided to help the hermit by digging that ground. So the king asked the hermit to give him the spade so that he can dig that place. The hermit thanked the king for his kindness and gave him the spade. Then he sat down on the ground and relaxed. Now look at the next paragraph. When the king had dug 2 beds, he stopped and repeated his question. The hermit gave no answer, but stood up, stretching out his hand for the spade, and said, Now you rest and let me work. But the king did not give him the spade and continued to dig. Here the word beds means small patches of ground for plants, and the word stretching means straightening or extending one's body or a part of one's body to its full length, typically so as to tighten one's muscles or in order to reach something. So this paragraph tells us that after the king had finished digging 2 beds, he stopped and repeated his questions, hoping that the hermit would reply. But the hermit did not reply. He did not give any answer. Instead, he stood up and asked for his spade and stretched out his hand for the tool and told the king to rest. But the king did not give him the spade and he continued digging the ground. Now look at the next paragraph. 1 hour passed, then another. The sun went down behind the trees, and at last the king stuck the spade into the ground and said, I came to you, wise man, for an answer to my questions. If you can give me no answer, tell me so and I will return home. Here comes someone running, said the hermit. Here the word stuck means pushed a sharp or pointed object into or through something. This paragraph tells us that the king kept on digging the ground for a couple of hours. The sun went down behind the trees means the sun had set. And at last the king pushed the spade into the ground and told the hermit that he had come to him for an answer to his questions. In addition to this, the king told the hermit that if he could not answer his questions, he could just say so and he would just go back to his home. And while the king was telling all this to the hermit pointed towards the person who was running towards them. So this was the part 1 of the story, and we will stop here only. We'll continue with part 2 of the story in the next video. So stay tuned for the part 2 of this chapter, and if you have any doubt, any question or any query, do let me know through the comment section below. Till then, take care everyone, stay healthy, stay safe, and thank you so much for watching.